Okay, got it.
So hello and a very warm welcome to the Ndita Mindset Show with me, Irene Pat. So I am so thrilled to welcome you to this episode of the show. Remember that the Ndita Mindset Show is all about mindset change, personal development, self-motivation, and becoming the best version of yourself. And this show is brought to you by Ndita Mindset Coaching, which is a personal development company that empowers women to become the best version of themselves through coaching. And that said, I am so excited to bring you this week's show. This is episode 11. And so I'd like to encourage you, if you've not caught the other 10 episodes, do make sure you go back and watch them. And I am so excited and honored to welcome my guest on this episode of the show. She is a shrewd industry leader with over 25 years of experience in the banking sector, and her profession has taken her to 4 countries. She's worked in Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Zambia, and now Malawi, heading top organizations, top banking institutions in all those countries. And I thought I'll bring her on this show to learn more about how she's been able to do this. So her name is Zandile Miriam Shaba. And Zandile, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
It is so good to have you here. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this with us. And I know that there's so much to you, so I'll let you introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Zandile Shaba, and my current role is as the managing director of Mybucks Banking Corporation. That's from a career perspective, but I'm also a wife and a mother, 2 kids, but they're grown up now, thank goodness, and doing their own thing. So I'm kind of a free bird apart from my husband, but otherwise, yeah, that's me.
All right, great. Zandile, I'm interested to learn about your backstory. Share with us your backstory. How did you grow up, and how was that experience like for you?
Well, when I look at my story, I'm always saying I was very fortunate. My father was a chartered accountant, and my mother was a nurse, and so I grew up with kind of educated parents, and I also didn't grow up in my native country initially, Zimbabwe. I grew up in Zambia, did my primary school education there. It was sort of kind of, during the apartheid eras. So we were, living outside the country. So grew up in Zambia, also did my high school in Swaziland. So I've always been all over the place, and then ended up back in Zimbabwe. And did also completed my university there. So I've had a background of moving around. So I think that kind of then spilled into my career side, on the career side of living that kind of expatriate life. So I was very fortunate. So within that, my father would be like a CFO of the company, and wherever he was working, we were all educated well, went to school. So I don't have a sub story backstory to tell, that I grew up poor or anything like that. We were all encouraged to go to school. In fact, that was the one non-negotiable at home, was making sure you got your education. And the girls and the boys, in fact, the boys were treated a little bit harsher than the girls. The girls kind of got away with a lot more. So yeah, I was very fortunate to have the upbringing that I've had. Yeah.
And talk to me a little bit about how you started your career in the banking sector.
Yeah, funny enough, because my father's best friend was actually working for ADB in Abidjan. So, it was like I started talking to him about banking and following that as a career. So once I finished sort of high school, I actually didn't even want to go to university initially. So my dad said, you have to go to work. So I went and got a job. My first job was in a bank.
Yes.
But that experience was horrible. I didn't, because I was a clerk, and, we used to have what we called a waste department. We don't have that now. We're all processing. Computerization was very limited at that time. I didn't like it. So I went back to school. Told my dad I'm going back, and went to university. did a political and admin degree, and then when I graduated, went back to the same bank. So obviously, and went back to them and said, no, now I've got my degree. Then they put me through a management training program. And then I started working in a couple of departments, but then ended up in corporate banking and started to move my way up as a corporate banking manager after that. And then eventually was heading the department, and that's basically how I started. So it was right from, I've never worked anywhere else except in a bank. Yeah.
Okay, so that's why your career span has been in like personal banking, investment banking, and as well as in SME banking. You've experienced it all across the board.
Absolutely, I've experienced it all, and even the career, like when I started, it was a bank called Zimbank in Zimbabwe at the time, and that's where I got my training and things like that. That was a retail bank, and then I was poached in when I was in corporate banking by First Merchant Bank, which was an investment banking outfit. And throughout my career, even when I kind of retired for a season there when I was in Zimbabwe, and my family had remained in Zambia at that point. And when I went back there, I was kind of asked to help this microfinance become a fully fledged bank. So working on that project exposed me to the SME banking and things like that. So I've done quite a lot of things in banking.
Very, very insightful. Very, very insightful. And I guess throughout hearing your story now, it makes sense that you got into leadership. But I just want to get from you, growing up, did you always think, I'm going to head a bank, I'm going to manage a bank? Did you have that as an ambition, or how was that like for you growing up as a young woman?
Well, not banking, definitely not banking. It was because it was the first job that came up when Dad said, you're not going to school, go and get a job type thing. Then I had to. It was like, okay, let me do it. And that was the job. I defaulted into banking. I actually wanted to be an aircraft engineer, funny enough.
Wow.
An aircraft engineer, and that came through after I started working at the bank. An opportunity, but I just didn't take it on. I didn't bother to go and pursue that. So I just said, look, I'm in this, let me just see it through. But having said that, I think historically I'd kind of been, deputy head girl and every Interact Club, and then I was a treasurer and things like that. So I kept on getting into leadership positions as a young child. But having said that, it was not automatic in banking. I mean, I had to change a few things about myself in order to set myself on the path to work. Because when I started banking, I was young. And being CEO was not exactly my target. We were all had young friends. We were partying. We were all over the place, like any other 21, 22-year-old, you know what I mean? So later that I kind of settled and said, oh my goodness, I think it's better that, I need to start working towards this. Yeah.
Okay, so what in your viewpoint is the biggest hurdle that women face when it comes to taking up leadership positions, and how do you think that we can solution for that?
I think the biggest hurdle that I've, in terms of women taking up, you're saying women taking up rather than women being, ending up in leadership positions. When you're talking about taking up, it comes back to almost like choices. I'm sure you've heard about the head of in New Zealand,
yes.
Prime Minister or President, I can't remember. Jacinda Ardern, she's just resigned, right?
Yeah, she's resigned.
And she just said, I don't have any more in my tank to go any further. And she's been in that position for about 6 years, right? 6 years. But she's chosen to walk away. And because of women and their roles in society, and let's start from the basics. We are human beings and we are women. and this is one thing I'm always saying to women is accept your women femininity and realize that in society we play certain roles, whether we like it or not. Whether we like it or not. These are roles that, whether we want to say imposed on us, but biology to a certain extent has imposed it on us. We are mothers, and the babies are there that need attention at that time. Yeah, that need attention at that time. So women sometimes choose not to take up because these positions require long working hours, and a lot of time, a lot of self-education and capacity building. And so sometimes you just decide that's not for you. And I'm of the view that much as we, because I was looking at statistics just now, and how we're celebrating that the Fortune 500 companies, for the first time, over 10% of them are run by women. Only
Yes.
10%. I mean,
only 10%. I saw that as well. Yeah. I was like, yay,
absolutely.
yay, but it's too small. Yeah.
It's so small. And what is the reason? Women are dominating at university. In most universities, it's more women than, but it tapers off later. Why? Because the women are not taking up. But it's not an issue of, it's the reality of certain situations that we face. And much as I'd want to blame men and, patriarchy or whatever the case may be, to a certain extent, we do make choices not to. I mean, here, like recently, we've had a case where I've seen cases where you every time we're actually disposed to hiring women, even within the bank, but we cannot meet those quotas. Why? Because you'll interview a man and interview the woman, and the man is out performing the women, and yet education-wise, they're the same, and everything. There's no reason why the girls should be outperformed by these men. But because they've got such a huge a responsibility on the mothering side, you get home, you've got to cook, you've got to have children, you've got, you know what I'm saying? So you don't self capacitate yourself. You don't take the time to really build up your skills. Like they say, education is, I think it's Jim Rohn. What's that quotation he says? Education will give you a living, but self-education, formal education will give you a living, but self-education will bring you wealth. Yeah. And will bring you growth and things like that. Time for that self-education, time invested to show that you are the best in that place. Time to really build yourself up. So I think the roles that women play in society, we are actually amazing because we carry a lot. And sometimes then you just default and say, no, this other one has to give in. And I'm not going to pursue that. I think that's the biggest hurdle.
So true. So true. And I'm wondering, are you able to share with us what you faced as a significant barrier to rising up in the corporate ladder, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I would say, and if I face this barrier, I cannot imagine. Remember, my background is that I didn't really have any problems, and the boys being educated and the girls and being let down. But for me, it was because I'm married in a family, African family, and when I'm in that family situation, I'm very submissive. And at a funeral, we'll be sitting on the floor, the men are sitting on the chairs, and then when I come back to work, I'm in the dominant position. So it's almost schizophrenic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Chopping and changing. And women do that more than men have to, because in society they have to. So now when I'm now leading as a woman, I have this kind of imposter syndrome that I'm not meant to be there, and you hold back. And I've really had to work on that in terms of putting my views forward. You talk about lean in, and she talks about it. Women do not put their best foot forward because they don't want to be seen as bossy. They don't want to be seen as, pushy, and because in society you play the submissive role. right? And then you come back to this corporate role where you're supposed to, put your opinion forward. You're supposed to go and sit in the front. So deliberately, when I get to the meeting, you have to chase me. I know in the Bible it says, though, you know, unless I see reserved, I'm sitting up there. I go to the front now. You know what and I'm assuming that front row is meant for me.
Yes.
It's meant for me. But women will sit at the back.
Yeah.
We don't lean in. We don't lean in. We do not, and we do not take our role in the front there. So, and we have that imposter. So when I'm sitting among my male colleagues and I'm the one in sharing, and I'm always assuming, okay, I think the men know more than I do, and then I'm having to work harder to make sure that I know more. So from that angle, that imposter syndrome is something I've really had to overcome myself and really put my foot forward and put the best of me forward and say, I have every right to be here and represent. Yeah.
So good. And you're doing
so
so good, and you're doing such a good job at it. And I'm interested to find out, since you, before being managing director of Mybucks Malawi, you have been a managing director in Mozambique, Zimbabwe, and Zambia for another bank. I'm thinking, how has Zandile grown from the first time that you took that top position to the Zandile now, apart from what you've already, of course, mentioned about overcoming imposter syndrome? But what else has happened to you as a leader at this particular point? How has the journey been?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'd mention the biggest growth obviously has been in terms of experience on the technical ability side, obviously. I think I know banking backwards and forwards really now compared to when I was first thrust into the role when I went to Mozambique initially. And I was totally green then. I really needed all the help I needed at that time. So now I'm more confident in the role. It's something I've been doing for a very long time. But one thing I also have is a level of resilience that I think the younger people probably would not have. I do not walk away from a challenge. And to me, I like to finish on top. And I have been through some major challenges, even in my current role, where everyone expects you to die. And thinks you're dead and it's over. And walking through that, keeping your head up high through a crisis, and not bowing down to what the circumstances, like I always remember one of my pastors was saying, when you say, how are you? And you say, I'm fine under the circumstances. And he'd say, what are you doing under there? Why are you under the circumstances?
Yes.
Why? And that always stuck with me. I don't care what is happening around me, right? And this comes with experience and resilience and going through several crises from a work perspective, where you just have to stand up. I don't care what anyone is saying. What everybody's opinion is none of my business, except what I believe about myself and what I believe I am capable of and what I believe is the best way forward. And you've got to commit to that and keep walking whilst people are chatting on the side and pulling you down and saying things about whatever it is that's going on. You've got to push away that chatter. That I have grown tremendously in, and I think it's something that I'm even able to apply in my own personal life. You can say a lot of things, and I can hear a lot of things, but I'm telling you, when this is the plan and this is the way to go, I have grown in that way. You just keep walking. I use that whiskey scenario. Keep walking. Just keep putting one foot forward. You will walk. It came to pass. You will walk through that circumstance and you'll get to the other end. Resilience, and persevering through circumstances and not being taken out by circumstances. Yeah.
So powerful, so good. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I'm also, I get the sense that you've grown to be so confident and so certain and so sure of yourself, given the territory that you're in right now. I wonder, is it lonely at the top?
Yeah, to a certain extent, yes, because obviously, here's where the loneliness comes from, is finding people with similar mindset rather than, like making friends with people that resonate with um with what you believe. Like they said, you are the same level as the five people around you, sort of, that you regularly interact with. Because, but one thing I've learned to find is you get something from somebody else, they get something else from you, but you can never get the whole package in terms of who you hang around with. So masterminding with people of like characters, but you cannot share too much as well, at this level. You cannot be telling all your goals and all your plans and things like that, because there are a lot of people do not understand in some cases. But that's at every level that you are in life. You've just got to decide who you want to surround, who you're going to mastermind with. So I join a lot of groups that are online, that really people are talking the same language, same mindset, because others will be talking about, oh, Malawi is terrible, look what Malawi is going through, oh, this, that. And honestly, to me, is what is the solution? How do we make it work now? What do I do to improve the circumstance in my little way, whatever I can contribute? Because otherwise I will be wallowing under this. Oh, look, devaluation, oh, this, oh, that, oh, power, and things like that. Everybody knows what the problems are. And to me, problems are there to look at and resolve. Now solutions. Let's look for solutions. So be very careful who you hang around with, because if that's all they're talking about is how bad the power is, terrible, you know what I'm saying? Where are you going to go? Where are you going to go with that? Yes, the realities are there, the circumstances are there, but let's find solutions, guys, and move forward. Let's find solutions.
So good. So good. I have a quote here, and I'd like to get your thoughts on it. It says that leadership is not a position or a title, it is action and example. What would be your take on that? Is that true in your case?
Sometimes you have to respect the title and the position. If somebody is the president, respect the president. You know what I mean? So to a certain extent, the title gives a certain status and gravitas, right? In terms of that leadership, and everybody will really look up to you because of that title. But once the title is there, you've then also got to deliver. To me, I know leadership is influence, but also leadership is delivering on your promises and what you've committed. And when people see you walking the walk, then of course, then you solidify. So title gives you the right to be respected, but then you've also got to solidify it with your delivery and your actions and the way that you lead, and being the example, walk the talk, because then they start to lose respect for you as a person. And the other thing about leadership, and to me, this is one of the biggest challenges that we have, is it's not just your education and the title will give you that leadership position, but honestly, it's character that keeps you there. Character and action. So ability and character, to me, are the key things, because people get toppled off all the time for these two things. Either they don't know how to do the job, they've been over promoted, and they've taken no time to capacity. Like when in my initial posting as MD in a CEO, it was CEO at that time in Mozambique, I knew nothing about being a CEO. And I was like, oh my God, I need to learn. And I had to capacitate myself quickly. But I would sit in meetings and be totally blank initially. But that only lasted for a few months. After that, man, I was firing on all cylinders. So the capacity aspect has to be there. You cannot be a leader that doesn't know your job, doesn't understand. And You've got to have that capacity. Or surround yourself with really intelligent people, but you've also got to demonstrate.
Yeah.
You also have the acumen to be there and the right to be there. And character, it topples a lot of leaders from their pedestal.
Good. So good, so good. And talking about that experience where you felt like you were thrust in the deep end at the beginning, I'm thinking just you saying that, it sort of like gives permission to somebody sitting there and going like, how am I ever going to be ready to be an MD? I guess you cannot fully be ready before you get there, but you have to get there and then figure things out as you're there, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, learn on the job, listen, and read about it. And start and really know. Now we have no excuse. Google it.
Yes.
I'm always telling my staff here, Google it for goodness sake. That's why self-education will bring you wealth. Self-education will bring you growth, right? Google it. I had to learn very quickly. And I was with we're taking over from these huge banks, this bank that had been bought and had been thrown there as CEO. And they knew banking. These were old white men who knew banking more than I did. And, I just kind of gleaned from them and quickly now set myself up and learned as quickly as I could. Learned as quickly as, and after that, I took off.
Wow, so amazing and so empowering. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I wonder what would you say how do you encourage women in Malawi to not give up the belief that they can do this, like they can be in a leadership position like you are. I mean, I coach women, and I remember having a conversation with one of the women who said, you know what, I have an ambition to become an MD of a company that I work for now, but I don't have a lot of women that mirror that to me. And so it scares me that it's possible. I wonder, what would you say to a woman who is there in middle management and they're thinking, I want to someday be an MD? How would you encourage them?
There's a concept I was reading somewhere about. It's called the future self, right? And sit down and define that woman, your future self. List MD, powerful, whatever, and really be specific, earning this amount, this. Talk to that future, define her, right? Define that future self. And then keep her there as your friend. This is a concept, right? I'm just introducing a concept.
Yes.
You can keep that future self as your friend. Like my future self, I'm 69 kgs. I'm not yet there yet, but that future self, I'm 69 kgs. I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, and I'm just going to use a weight loss goal as an example, right?
Yes.
as future self, And then around me, I'm seeing all sorts of people gaining weight, right? And not mirroring what I need to do. So I've got to keep talking to that future self and look for social proof around you. And the internet is the best. Women who have done it before. If you cannot find the people around you who've done it, look elsewhere. There are others who have. And the world is full of examples that I have, right? And keep talking to that. If for me to get to 69 kgs, what did I need to do now? Talk to that future self. Wake up every morning at 5, exercise, eat certain amount of calories, vegetables, fruit, whatever the case. Okay. And so now you list, okay, this is what you did. Okay. This is how you got there. Yes, list those things. Now this girl wants to be MD of whatever company it is. She's got to list that future self. She's MD, doing things. This is who she is. And start talking to that woman. What do you need to do to get there? I need to go and get my master's. I need to go and get this. And keep consulting. Would my future self do this? And the future self will tell me, no, listen, if you want to be where I am, what you're trying to do to bribe that policeman ain't going to do it. You'll be embarrassed, you'll be whatever. You know what I'm saying? The future self, keep that future self woman as your bouncing off board. But you've got to define her first. I wouldn't listen. And then somebody tells you, no, you as a woman, you will never get there. Men. I can't control, it's not my job to change men. I mean, really, it's not, I've got other targets to meet in the bank, and changing the men and how men think about women it's something I'm not prepared to take on. Focus on what you can control. What you can control. Controlling another human being, how his mama brought him up, it's not going to, really, 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 unless it's your husband, then you've got a real problem, right? But focus on what you can control. List what you can control and keep talking to that future woman. Okay, would this future self eat this chocolate now? No, you wouldn't, because you've already eaten this, 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 this. Don't do it, right? Don't do it. This future self do this. Yes, she would. Go for it. Go for it. Go to school. Go to this. Go to that. Start working towards this. And would this future self listen to that person who's bringing you down? Absolutely not. Right? So have that concept. Have a future self that has goals. And then right now, what you do is you have, but that future self is an outcome, right? Right now, have leading. So it's a lag. It's an outcome that you want to. What do you do now? These are lead indicators. Exercise daily. Go to, eat this daily. So your lead indicators, get my MBA. So every day I've got to wake up, do an assignment for 1 hour, do this for one, have these lead things. So a weight loss goal, for me, it's very simple. Eat this amount, exercise this amount. I just have two lead indicators, 5 days a week. I tick that off every week. By the time I've arrived at my future self, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just love that analogy, the way you've made it. It's almost like you're morphing into the identity of the person that you would like to be, right? And you're starting to live like her right now, and then you're doing things the way she would do them, and then from there the rest becomes like it just sorts itself out. It sorts itself out, right?
The outcome is automatic. The outcome is automatic. Right?
That is so powerful. That is so powerful.
Just,
Thank you so much for sharing it from your perspective. I really, really, truly love that. And I'm going to take it as well. And I'm interested to find out, like, are you a reader? Are you a reader? And if you are, can you share with us your favorite book or a resource that has impacted your life positively?
Yeah, I read a lot. But I also listen to podcasts, and so it's very difficult for me to. But one thing I do focus on is non-fictional books. I'm not a big fictional book reader. Definitely, I read, and definitely I listen to mindset and building myself up podcasts and building my skills podcasts. And I read a lot on banking and read and find out what other countries are going through, which is why I'm not as depressed about Malawi when I look at Pakistan and I look at Sri Lanka and all these other economies and what they're going through, in Argentina and I say, okay, look, then there's hope here. All right, there's hope that we can go through. So yes, it's not just books, it's podcasts, it's videos, and it's reading materials on the internet. And so yes, I do read a lot and find out what's going on and being aware. So yes, in terms of books that have sort of, I've had so many, but I think the Start With Why is a big one. I'm sure you know that book. You've heard from Simon Sinek, where he talks about why are you doing this, which is why I admire. I think I admire that prime minister who's actually resigned. She knew she didn't want to do this anymore. It's not why. She doesn't, and she has the courage to walk away and choose a different path and to choose. Why are you doing this? Why do you want to be the MD? Right? Why? Is it because it's glamorous? It's whatever. My sister, we're totally different. She didn't want this, doesn't want this, not interested. She's a legal secretary and she's very happy as she is, but in her late, and she's older than me, she's actually about to finish her course, a degree in counseling that she just started, and she's almost hitting 60, mind you. She's just about, you know what I mean? And she loves people and counseling people. For me, oh my gosh, that's stressful, just hearing people's problems, right? So yeah, so choose who you are, Start with why you want to do this. Even as an executive, it's not for everybody, for goodness sake. It's not, being the MD of a bank. And be proud of who God made you and the choices. So start, why do you want to do this? Start with why. I think that was one of the, and it was mainly referring to companies, but it really applied to me as an individual. Why do I want to do this? Is it for prestige? Is it for what? Or is it something that I really want and resonate with? Yeah.
Okay.
Let me just,
thank you.
Thanks. Sorry, somebody was walking in my office now.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
okay. And as the next question I have for you is, who and what inspires you as a top executive? Do you have somebody that inspires you?
Different people. Actually, there was one. I'll just remember her name. What is that company? I should have thought about that before. Anyway, some big corporation, I think in the US, where there's this Black woman who's actually leading. I'll get the name. I'll send you that afterwards. But she's had to overcome a lot of stuff to be able and when I'm talking Black woman, I'm talking totally Black, dark in complexion, because sometimes you have these light women and and things like that. She is a real African American woman. It's one of the is it Best, not Best Buy, anyway, I'll get the name of the company that she's actually leading, women that have overcome, but also tough, strong women. I love Winnie Mandela. To me, strong, action-oriented, stood against a lot of forces that were against her. And I looked at that woman, and she made her mistakes, but I'm telling you, that woman was a force to be reckoned with, in spite of the circumstances around her. So women like that really, really inspire me. Really inspire me in terms of what they've managed to achieve. Yeah.
So good. So good. And can you share with us, what is a personal habit that has helped you along the way of moving into the woman that you are right now?
Well, I think I've already kind of mentioned it.
Yes.
Well, apart from now, of the past 2 years, I took up exercise. When I heard people were, when COVID came, and I said, I am not about to die of this disease. And like I said, I read thoroughly what was causing people to die, the comorbidities and things, obesity and all sorts of things. I took immediate action. But I'm telling you, it has led to clarity of mind and really opened up a whole lot of things for me to do even better, even my job at work and things like that. But apart from that, I think it's my thirst for knowledge. It's thirst for knowledge. I really absorb a lot when I look around, and I read a lot. And like I said, I do a lot of and maybe every day about an hour absorbing knowledge and things like that. So I think that has really helped me. So no matter what, I can be thrown into a circumstance and still contribute intelligently. And that is something that women just need to build up as well, because you end up in and when sometimes our contribution can be substandard, right? Or it might be worthwhile, but you don't have the confidence to put your viewpoint forward, because maybe I might be wrong and things like that. So hey, build up that capacity, know your stuff, really become very knowledgeable in whatever you're doing. Yeah. So yeah, reading and that habit definitely I think has helped me bar none.
Okay. No, thank you so much. And as we wind up, I'm wondering, what does the future hold for Zandile?
Over the years, I've kind of been sort of like investing in various little businesses and things like that. And at some point, I do believe I do need to run my own thing. And I think, you may not know this, but I am 57 years old, and at some point, but I have a lot of energy and a lot of, but apart from running my own thing, I think it's more in the development sector and helping others I really do have a passion for seeing women succeed. And whatever I'm running, I think will be in that same frame, and really helping to give back, I think, from that angle, and encouraging women to rise up. Rise up. You cannot be beaten by men. When most companies now have the policy, if you guys are the same level, promote the girl. Promote. This is your opportunity, guys. It's the opportunity. We have no excuse. I know we still all the glass ceiling. I don't see it anymore as much. If you are good at what you do, if you're a good lawyer, if you're a good accountant, if you're a good, you will be promoted. People really value skills and ability. So helping women just really rise up from there, and encouraging them to reach for the sky, for the stars, if that's what you want to do. And if you want to be a mother, and do that as well as you can. There's nothing wrong with it. And I think women really need to also let go of the guilt, because before it was the guilt of leaving the children at home and and pursuing your career. Now it's guilt that you want to be at home with your children rather than pursue. Allow women to be who they are. I accept women as they are. I respect all women, and I respect women's choices. And make the choice early. Decide what you want and start planning for it. Okay, cool.
So good. Now, on that note, Zandile would like to thank you so much for having agreed to do this with us. Thank you for the value that you've given us, for the insight that you've given us, and I think the permission to really go ahead and dream big, and to believe that we can actually achieve whatever it is that we want. Thank you so much, and we wish you all the best. And yeah, so good to see you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Irene. It's been great talking to you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. I will share with you the link later.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Thank you.